Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for spending some time with me or letting me spend some time with you. I really do appreciate it. Something special today, I think. If you are one of these people who have been accused of being legalistic because you follow the Creator's instructions, maybe you've been accused of trying to earn your way into heaven for some reason, this was for you. But if you're one of those people who may have accused someone of that, you might want to stick around to the end because, well, just because. You'll see. Trust me, you'll see. This is important. This is important. Okay? Just saying. All right. So, right, there's something that modern Christian churches do, and they're teaching. And they teach because the law has been done away with. Okay? We're no longer bound by the law. We're no longer bound to obey the Creator's instructions. And if we do, we're under some kind of bondage or we're trying to earn our way into heaven. Well, you can't earn your way into heaven. It just doesn't work that way. But apparently, the church doctrine, this is one of those church doctrines that definitely conflicts with the Bible. Okay? I've written before. It's in the books. By the way, authorjerrymitchell.com. More on that later. That Paul never did write that the law was done away with. Right? It's one of those biblical myths that people believe. Paul continued to be obedient to the law until he died, just as all of the other disciples did, not just because they were Jewish, but because God said so. Okay? What they didn't do, okay, what they didn't follow was all of the, I'm going to make up a word here, Pharisaical regulations. Okay? The Pharisees had imposed a lot of regulations, a lot of traditions became law, if I can put that in air quotes, okay? But they didn't do that. They just read what was written and did what was written. I had a conversation the other day with somebody, and I made that statement, if we just read the Bible and do what it says, we'd all be better off. And pastor I was talking to just kind of looked at me like, well, yeah, it makes sense, right? Now, because we try to do the same thing, we just try to read what's there and do what's there. Myra and I have been accused of being legalistic. We've been accused of trying to earn our way into heaven. And most of the accusations come from Christians. Can you imagine that? A Christian saying, oh, if you obey God, you must be legalistic. Wait a minute. Let's hold the phone here for a minute, right? If being obedient to the Creator's instructions is legalistic, does that mean disregarding them is illegal? Think about that. Think about that. As for trying to earn your way into heaven, you can't do that. It just doesn't work that way. We can't earn our way into the kingdom. And by the way, we need to remember that in a kingdom, the king makes the rules. And when the king makes the rules are to be obeyed. There's no citizens in a kingdom. Did you know that? You're not, if you are under a monarchy, you are a subject, not a citizen, and there is a difference. And yes, I've heard people say, oh, I'm a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. No, you're not. No, you are not. I think I have a whole podcast on that if you want to go back and look for it. If you're not willing to obey the king's rules, you're not a subject either. You are going to be one of those people who get kicked out. Now, societies here on earth, we use civil rules, civil laws to help maintain order, and they try to keep people safe for the most part. Now, there are some things that are regulated that are punishable by civil law. You know, if you don't pay your taxes, man, that's civil law, right? But think about stop signs and red lights. You know, they direct traffic and they attempt to prevent accidents when you obey the law, right? But failing to obey a simple traffic law, you know, it may cause injury, it may cause harm, right? You know, it's that simple. The law our Creator gives us, or should say gave to us, it does much the same thing. It protects us from harm. It ensures a society that is loving and kind and compassionate. Look at the things we're told not to do. And I'm not going to go over them all. Murder, right? We're told not to murder. Well, murder certainly isn't loving, kind, or compassionate. Our Creator's rules, when followed and applied, helps prevent discord, right? Adultery. It causes arguments. It causes problems. Nowadays, it causes divorce. Many years ago, it caused death, right? But there's something that a lot of people are overlooking. Think about this. A lot of people overlook something that, you know, and I've mentioned it before. There's a great deal of freedom when it comes to being obedient to God's instructions. David writes in Psalm 119:44, I will always obey your law forever and ever. And in 145, and I will walk in freedom, for I have sought your precepts. I will walk in freedom. Being obedient to the Creator's instructions is not bondage. It's freedom. How is it freedom? How is David able to walk in freedom? As, you know, he's able to obey the King, God, his law, and he walks in freedom. We can do that. We have that ability. We are free to do all the good that we can do. Anytime, any place. And because the Bible's true, it would mean that the people who are accusing you of being legalistic or under bondage, they are the ones who are bound into sin. They're the ones who are bound into sin. Think about that. If you reject your Creator's instructions, and the Creator says if you violate these instructions, it's called sin, you reject those, then you are in bondage to sin. You know, they might not murder, they might not commit adultery, but they're still bound, not destined to sin, but bound, tied to sin. Deuteronomy 27:26. Think about this. This is, you know, on Mount Ebal. Cursed is he who does not put all of the words of this law into practice. And let the people say, Amen. And it does say this law, meaning everything up to that point that Moses had written. Or that, maybe I should say that our Creator had told Moses to write. You know, it says this law. They're standing on Mount Ebal, and this is what happens if you're not obedient. If you don't pay attention, if you don't put this into practice, you are under a curse. Now, what does that mean for the modern churches who teach we need to reject God's laws? Well, it means they are in bondage to a curse. It means they're the ones who are rejecting the Creator himself. So when, you know, someone asks you or someone accuses you, because they don't ask you, and somebody accuses you, oh, you're just being legalistic. You're trying to earn your way into heaven. No, you're not. How do you respond? What do you do? Well, You smile, you be polite, and ask the simple question. One simple question. Is there freedom in being bound by a curse? And then you very politely, gently, if necessary, more harshly when it becomes necessary, share the verses I've just used. We're free to do all the good that we can do whenever we are able to do it. It's not legalism. It's not earning your way anywhere. But it is following the rules of the king himself. It's following his instructions. Now, think about that, because this is where the title of my second book comes in, God's Universe, God's Rules. His kingdom, his law. Think about that. Author Jerry Mitchell is where those books are sold, and I do appreciate everyone who has purchased them. It is absolutely helping out. Keeps us doing what we're doing. Something to think about. If you think you're going to be a citizen of a kingdom, rethink it. You're going to be a subject, and you are subject to his law. Not ours, not the ones we make up, not the ones we want to keep. His. Something to think about until next time. And until then, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.